Avi, it's so great to have you here. This is so outrageous. I happen to be Catholic. I can't imagine this happening during something as sacred as the Mass, the liturgy. What was the reaction? Has there been any reaction, large scale, in Australia over this intrusion?
Look, I think in Australia, they've sort of become used to this overreach. But to put into perspective for Americans, your audience need to understand that in Western Australia, where this happened, there was a total of 18 new cases that day in a state that's almost 93% double vaccinated. So to put that into perspective for you, on that same day, I believe the United States recorded 310,000 cases. And I don't think in any state, even in your most extreme leftist state, police barged into any place of worship to check if they're wearing masks or their vaccination status.
No,
so
I
it
do.
is pretty outrageous, but unfortunately, Australia has become, the government has really created this climate of fear that the police say it was actually somebody from the public that tipped them off. So they've created these hotlines to get what we call here dobbing, to encourage Australians to what you guys would call snitch, to call on their fellow Australians, which is the most un-Australian act, to say, oh, I think he's breaking COVID restriction. And the government has pumped in millions of dollars in ad campaigns on social media or on TV to encourage Australians to tell on their neighbour that who, in this case, weren't wearing a mask. There were reportedly 5 people in the church not wearing a mask with, they say, exemptions, or they had them around their neck or something like that. It's disgusting and it's sad.
It's a Chinese surveillance snitch culture is what has been imported into Australia. It's very scary. Any word from the Pope? I mean, this is clearly an intrusion on religious liberty.
Look, no, we haven't heard anything from anyone. In fact, the church even here remains very silent on the issue. The targeting of churches and synagogues, for that matter, we've seen that throughout the pandemic, specifically churches and synagogues. We had a pastor here only a couple of miles from where I sit now. He spent time in jail for daring to run his church services throughout 2020. And on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, they surrounded synagogues and locked out ultra-Orthodox Jews, targeting a community on horseback. And they had fully armed police patrolling the streets to make sure those Jews don't dare go pray on their most important day. So it's something that we've seen in Australia before, but Western Australia, the premier there is our most extreme left-wing premier. He's locked in the state. The borders are very tight. It's like a country within a country. Our prime minister, which proclaims to be a Christian, hasn't said a word. In fact, he's only 2 days ago come out to support some of the harshest restrictions, like the closed borders. And to understand, he would be like Mark McGowan, who is the premier of Western Australia. He would be like, for your audience to understand, imagine if the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and the California Governor, Gavin Newsom, if they had a child together, that would be Mark McGowan. And I apologize to your viewers are eating breakfast now. It is an awful thought, but that is what Western Australia is living under now. And what I would say to Americans is, when they keep telling you, just get fully vaccinated and life can go back to normal, look at Australia, because they promised us that. And 93% fully vaccinated, you're not going to get much further than that. And they're barging into churches to check who's not wearing a mask. They're not even waiting till the end of a service. They're coming in middle. It's disgusting. So they're all liars.
Avi, it's a grim warning, and something that we should definitely pay attention to what's happening in Australia, because you're right. They're not going to give up. Their promises are broken every single time. Avi, you've been fantastic. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.